The vast, glittering expanse of the Milky Way galaxy had long been dominated by the Galactic Council, a powerful interstellar alliance of ancient alien civilizations that had carved out sprawling empires and established a delicate balance of power across the cosmos. For eons, these advanced species had lorded over the galaxy, their technological and military supremacy going virtually unchallenged. That is, until the day a small blue-green planet called Earth made its first official contact with the Galactic Council. It had been a momentous occasion, one that would forever alter the course of human history. After decades of steadily advancing their space programs and making cautious forays into the stars, the nations of Earth had finally made the leap to interstellar travel and communication. Through painstaking efforts and bold leaps of innovation, humanity had constructed a vast orbital station, a gleaming, modular hub that served as Earth's primary gateway to the cosmos. From this orbital outpost, the leaders of Earth's united global government had made the historic decision to reach out to the mysterious alien civilizations that were rumored to exist beyond their solar system. After receiving tantalizing signals and fragments of data from deep space probes, they knew the time had come to make first contact and establish peaceful relations with their extraterrestrial counterparts. And so it was that a delegation of Earth's most distinguished diplomats and scientists boarded a sleek, cutting-edge interplanetary spacecraft and set a course for the coordinates provided by the Galactic Council, a sprawling space station that served as the seat of their vast interstellar empire. As the human vessel approached the colossal orbital structure, the delegates peered out the viewports with a mix of awe and trepidation. The station was an engineering marvel, a gargantuan construct of gleaming metal and crackling energy fields that dwarfed even the largest of humanity's space stations. Gargantuan docking bays yawned open to receive the comparatively tiny human craft, and the delegates could make out the scurrying forms of alien workers and soldiers moving about the station's surface. When the human ship finally came to rest in one of the cavernous hangar bays, the delegates prepared to disembark and make first contact. They had spent countless hours rehearsing their opening statements, reviewing cultural protocols, and preparing for every conceivable scenario. But as the hatch opened and the human delegation stepped out onto the station's eerily quiet landing pad, they were immediately struck by the cold, unwelcoming atmosphere that permeated the place. A contingent of alien soldiers, clad in intimidating powered armor and wielding weapons that the humans had never seen before, stood at attention, their visored faces betraying no emotion. Silence hung thick in the air as the humans approached, their footsteps echoing against the gleaming metal floors. It was then that a door slid open at the far end of the hangar, and a group of imposing alien figures emerged. The human delegates immediately recognized them as members of the Galactic Council, representatives of the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy. They moved with an effortless grace, their regal bearing and ornate attire conveying a sense of immense authority. The human ambassador, a seasoned diplomat named Marie DuPont, stepped forward and cleared her throat, mustering her courage. "Greetings, honored members of the Galactic Council," she began, her voice betraying only the slightest hint of uncertainty. "I am Ambassador DuPont, representing the United Nations of the planet Earth. On behalf of my people, I thank you for welcoming us to your esteemed council chambers. We come in peace, seeking to establish friendly relations and explore the possibilities of cooperation between our civilizations." DuPont paused, waiting expectantly for a response. But the alien delegates merely regarded the humans with a mixture of indifference and disdain, their features unreadable behind their ornate masks and headdresses. After an agonizing moment of silence, one of the council members, a towering reptilian figure with gleaming scales and piercing yellow eyes, stepped forward. "So these are the humans that have been detected in your periphery," the alien said, his voice a low, rumbling growl. "We had heard rumors of your species, but we must admit we did not expect your kind to be so primitive." The other council members murmured in agreement, casting dismissive glances at the human delegation. DuPont felt her cheeks flush with a mixture of indignation and embarrassment. Primitive, she echoed, struggling to maintain her composure. Forgive me, but I take offense at that characterization. Humanity has made tremendous strides in science, technology, and exploration. We have united our world and set our sights on the stars. Surely that counts for something in the eyes of the Galactic Council. The reptilian alien let out a derisive snort. Certainly, your recent forays into space are admirable in their own way. But you must understand, the civilizations represented here have existed for millennia, and have long since mastered the intricacies of interstellar travel and communication. Your kind are mere infants, crawling upon the surface of your insignificant planet. The other council members nodded in agreement, some of them chuckling condescendingly. DuPont felt her hands clench into fists at her sides. She had known that first contact with the Galactic Council would be a delicate affair, but she had not anticipated such open disdain and dismissal. Taking a deep breath, she pressed on. Be that as it may, we have come to your council in good faith, seeking to expand our horizons and learn from your vast knowledge and experience. Surely there is room for cooperation and mutual understanding between our civilizations. The reptilian alien fixed DuPont with a piercing stare. Cooperation, he rumbled, his tone dripping with scorn. You misunderstand the nature of the Galactic Council, human. We are not a charitable organization, nor are we in the business of elevating primitive species to our level. We are the guardians of the galaxy, the keepers of order and stability. Your kind are but a speck in the grand tapestry of our dominion. He paused, his gaze sweeping over the human delegation. No, the only role we have in mind for your species is that of subordinates, followers who will gladly submit to our guidance and authority. You will join our empire, human, or you will be crushed beneath the weight of our might. Gasps of shock and outrage rippled through the human delegates, and DuPont felt her heart racing. This was not at all what they had anticipated. Summoning every ounce of her diplomatic training, she raised a hand, silencing her colleagues. I'm afraid we cannot accept those terms, honored council members, she said, her voice steady and resolute. Earth is a sovereign world, and we have no intention of surrendering our independence or submitting to the rule of any external power. We came here in good faith, seeking to forge ties of friendship and cooperation. But if that is not possible, then we shall have to part ways. The reptilian alien's eyes narrowed to slits, and the other council members stirred uneasily. DuPont held her ground, refusing to be cowed by their display of power and arrogance. A bold stance, human, the alien growled, but one that betrays your profound ignorance of the realities of this galaxy. You are but a speck in the vast tapestry of our dominion, and your refusal to comply will be met with the full might of the Galactic Council. He turned to his fellow delegates, gesturing imperiously. Make no mistake. This Earth will be brought to heel, one way or another. See to it that appropriate measures are taken. The other council members nodded in agreement, and DuPont felt a chill run down her spine. She had known that first contact would be a delicate endeavor, but she had never imagined that it would lead to such outright hostility and threats of subjugation. As the alien delegates swept out of the hangar, leaving the human delegation alone and overwhelmed, DuPont could only wonder what fate now awaited her world. But one thing was certain. Earth would not go down without a fight. The Galactic Council's delegates had departed the orbital station in a huff, their disdain for the upstart human civilization palpable. As the human delegation watched their sleek, angular vessels vanish into the void, a palpable tension hung in the air. Back on Earth, the news of the Council's ultimatum and threats had spread like wildfire, igniting a firestorm of outrage and determination across the global population. For decades, humanity had dreamed of making contact with advanced alien civilizations, hoping to forge bonds of friendship and cooperation. But the Galactic Council's arrogance and heavy-handed posturing had shattered those dreams, replaced by a grim resolve to defend their homeworld at all costs. In the halls of power, Earth's united global government convened emergency sessions, hastily mobilizing their limited military forces and ordering a massive technological push to bolster their capabilities. Scientists and engineers worked around the clock, fueled by a mixture of fear and national pride, to develop new weapons, propulsion systems, and defensive measures. The leaders of the world's nations knew that they were woefully outmatched by the vast resources and technological superiority of the Galactic Council, but they also understood that surrender was not an option. For the sake of their people and the future of their planet, they had to stand firm against the alien juggernaut. And so it was that, when the Galactic Council finally decided to put Earth's mettle to the test, the humans were ready. The fateful confrontation took place in the outer reaches of the solar system, near the orbits of the gas giant planets. A small fleet of Galactic Council warships, bristling with plasma cannons and energy shielding, emerged from the void, their commanders confident in their ability to swiftly overwhelm the primitive human defenses. As the alien vessels approached, the human military forces sprang into action. Sleek, nimble fighter craft launched from their orbital bases, their pilots honed by years of intensive training. Frigates and corvettes, their hulls reinforced with the latest in composite armor plating, moved to intercept the Galactic Council's ships. The battle that ensued was a display of raw, desperate determination against overwhelming odds. The human pilots, their nerves steeled by the knowledge that the fate of their planet hung in the balance, executed daring maneuvers that left the alien commanders reeling. They darted and weaved through the hail of plasma fire, their advanced targeting systems and intuitive understanding of their craft's capabilities, allowing them to evade the enemy's salvos with uncanny precision. Meanwhile, the human frigates unleashed a barrage of missiles and energy beams, their newly developed weapon systems proving surprisingly effective against the Galactic Council's supposedly superior technology. The alien warships, designed for long-range bombardment and overwhelming firepower, found themselves struggling to adapt to the humans' nimble and unconventional tactics. As the battle raged on, the Galactic Council's commanders grew increasingly frustrated and bewildered. How could these primitive, insignificant creatures be putting up such a fierce resistance? Surely their superior numbers and firepower should have been enough to crush the human forces in short order. But the humans refused to back down. Their ships darted and weaved through the chaos of the engagement, delivering punishing blows and inflicting heavy casualties on the alien fleet. The Galactic Council's warships, despite their advanced shielding and armor, found themselves outmaneuvered and overwhelmed by the relentless human onslaught. Finally, after a grueling battle that stretched on for hours, the human forces emerged victorious. The surviving Galactic Council vessels, their hulls breached and their systems crippled, were forced to limp away, their commanders nursing a mix of shock, outrage, and grudging respect for their human adversaries. Back on Earth, the news of the unexpected triumph spread like wildfire, igniting a wave of euphoric celebration across the globe. The people of Earth, who had once been dismissed as primitive and insignificant, had proven their mettle against the vaunted might of the Galactic Council. In the aftermath of the battle, the human leaders convened emergency meetings, their minds racing as they contemplated the implications of their victory. They knew that the Galactic Council would not take this defeat lightly. The alien civilizations would undoubtedly come back with greater force, determined to subjugate humanity and make an example of their defiance. "This was only the first skirmish," said the president of the United Earth Federation, her brow furrowed with concern. "The Galactic Council will not be merciful next time. We must be ready to defend our homeworld with everything we have." The other delegates nodded grimly, their expressions resolute. They knew that the coming days and weeks would be a race against time, as they scrambled to fortify their defenses and develop even more advanced weapons and technologies to counter the Galactic Council's inevitable retaliatory strike. One thing was certain: the humans would not go down without a fight. They had tasted victory against the galaxy's self-proclaimed masters, and they were determined to prove that their species was more than just a primitive footnote in the annals of interstellar history. As the human military forces began mobilizing for the looming confrontation, a palpable sense of determination and defiance swept across the planet. The people of Earth knew that the fate of their world hung in the balance, but they were more than ready to face the might of the Galactic Council head-on. For too long, they had been dismissed and underestimated. But now, with their unexpected triumph in the first skirmish, the humans had thrown down the gauntlet. They would show the galaxy that Earth was a force to be reckoned with, and that the Galactic Council's arrogance and contempt for their kind would be their downfall. The news of the human force's unexpected victory over the Galactic Council's warships sent shockwaves through the interstellar alliance. In the grand halls of the Council's orbital station, the alien delegates convened emergency sessions, their typically stoic demeanors replaced by a palpable mix of outrage and disbelief. "Impossible," snarled the towering reptilian counselor, his scaled features contorted in a mask of fury. "Those primitives should not have been able to withstand the full might of our fleet, let alone inflict such devastating losses upon us." The other delegates murmured in agreement, their expressions equally grim. For eons, the Galactic Council had maintained an unassailable position of power and dominance over the galaxy, subjugating any civilizations that dared to challenge their authority. The notion that a fledgling species like humanity could not only resist their advances, but outright defeat their forces, was simply unacceptable. "This cannot be allowed to stand," growled one of the delegates, a hulking insectoid creature whose mandibles clicked menacingly. "The humans have clearly demonstrated a level of technological and military capability that poses a direct threat to our supremacy. We must act swiftly to bring them to heel, lest their defiance inspire others to follow suit." The reptilian counselor nodded in agreement, his eyes narrowing to slits. "Indeed, we shall summon the human ambassador back to this station and make it clear that their continued resistance will be met with the full might of the Galactic Council." With that, the delegates set their plan in motion. A coded transmission was sent to the human delegation, summoning them back to the orbital station for an urgent meeting. The humans, sensing the gravity of the situation, quickly boarded their vessel and returned to the Council's domain. As the human ship docked and the ambassador, Marie Dupont, stepped out onto the landing pad, she was greeted by the same contingent of heavily armed alien soldiers that had welcomed them earlier. The atmosphere was tense, the soldiers' postures rigid, and their weapons at the ready. Dupont swallowed hard, her mind racing as she contemplated the possible consequences of this summons. She knew that the Galactic Council would not take their defeat lightly, and she braced herself for the worst as she followed the soldiers through the gleaming corridors of the station. When Dupont finally entered the Council's grand chamber, she found the alien delegates gathered in a semicircle, their expressions unreadable behind their ornate masks and headdresses. The reptilian counselor, the same one who had so openly derided humanity's capabilities, stepped forward, his gaze piercing. "Human ambassador, you have been summoned back to this council for a matter of the utmost importance," he intoned, his voice a low, rumbling growl. "Your species' recent display of military prowess has deeply unsettled us, and we find ourselves in a position where we can no longer ignore the threat you pose to the stability of the galaxy." Dupont felt a chill run down her spine, but she forced herself to remain composed. "Threat?" she echoed, her brow furrowing. "Surely you cannot be serious. Our people came to you in good faith, seeking to establish peaceful relations. We have no desire for conflict or confrontation." The reptilian counselor let out a derisive snort. "And yet, your forces have already engaged and defeated a contingent of our warships. That, human, is an act of aggression that cannot be overlooked or forgiven." He paused, his gaze sweeping over Dupont. "The Galactic Council has reached a unanimous decision. Either your species submits to our authority and joins our empire as loyal subjects, or we shall be forced to take decisive action to ensure the continued dominance of our civilization." Dupont felt her heart racing, her mind reeling from the counselor's ultimatum. She had known that the Galactic Council would not take their defeat lightly, but she had never imagined that they would go so far as to demand Earth's complete surrender and subjugation. "You cannot be serious," she breathed, her voice trembling with a mix of disbelief and outrage. "Surrender our sovereignty. Become your subjects. That is completely unacceptable. The people of Earth will never agree to such terms." The reptilian counselor's eyes narrowed to slits, his scaled features twisting into a menacing scowl. "Then you leave us no choice, human. If you refuse to submit to our authority, we shall be forced to bring the full might of the Galactic Council to bear upon your pathetic planet." He gestured to the other delegates, who nodded in grim agreement. "You have been warned, Ambassador. Convey this message to your leaders. Either they accept our terms of surrender, or they shall face the consequences of their defiance." DuPont opened her mouth to protest, but the counselor raised a clawed hand, silencing her. "This audience is over. Return to your ship and deliver our ultimatum. You have one Earth cycle to provide us with your response." With that, the delegates turned and swept out of the chamber, leaving DuPont and her entourage alone, their expressions etched with a mix of fear and determination. As DuPont and her team made their way back to their ship, the weight of the Galactic Council's threat hung heavy in the air. They knew that their homeworld was about to face the greatest challenge in its history, a challenge that could very well determine the fate of humanity itself. Back on Earth, the news of the Galactic Council's ultimatum spread like wildfire, igniting a wave of panic and outrage across the global population. The people had tasted victory against the alien juggernaut, and they had no intention of surrendering their hard-won sovereignty. The leaders of the United Earth Federation convened emergency sessions, poring over intelligence reports and military assessments. They knew that they were woefully outmatched by the Galactic Council's vast resources and technological superiority, but they were also painfully aware that surrender was not an option. "We cannot back down," declared the President, her expression grim but resolute. "To do so would be to betray everything we've fought for. Our freedom, our independence, our very way of life. We must stand firm against the Galactic Council's demands, no matter the cost." The other delegates nodded in agreement, their faces set with determination. They quickly mobilized their limited military forces, ordering a massive technological push to develop new weapons, defenses, and communication systems that could give them an edge against the alien invaders. As the days ticked by, the tension on Earth reached a fever pitch. The people knew that the Galactic Council's deadline was fast approaching, and they braced themselves for the inevitable confrontation. They had seen the might of the alien armada, and they knew that their chances of emerging victorious were slim. But still, they refused to surrender. For the people of Earth, the stakes were too high. Their freedom, their very existence as a sovereign species, hung in the balance. They were willing to fight to the last, no matter the odds. And as the final hours of the deadline approached, the humans steeled themselves for the coming storm, ready to face the full fury of the Galactic Council's wrath. As the Galactic Council's ultimatum deadline drew nearer, the people of Earth braced themselves for the coming storm. Across the globe, military forces were placed on high alert, their soldiers and pilots ready to defend their homeworld against the might of the alien juggernaut. In the halls of power, the leaders of the United Earth Federation huddled in tense discussions, weighing their limited options. They knew that their chances of withstanding the full force of the Galactic Council's wrath were slim at best. Their military might, though bolstered by their unexpected victory in the previous skirmish, was still a mere fraction of the alien alliance's overwhelming firepower and technological superiority. But even in the face of such daunting odds, the humans refused to surrender. They had tasted the bitter sting of the Galactic Council's arrogance and disdain, and they were determined to prove that their species was more than just a primitive footnote in the annals of interstellar history. As the final hours of the deadline ticked away, the leaders of Earth made a bold decision, one that would forever alter the course of their conflict with the Galactic Council. "We can no longer afford to hold back," the President declared, her expression grave but resolute. "It's time to reveal our secret weapon, the one that will ensure our survival against the alien onslaught. The other delegates nodded in agreement, their faces set with determination. They quickly dispatched a coded message to a top-secret military installation deep within the heart of the Siberian wilderness, ordering the immediate deployment of their most advanced and powerful asset. Within hours, the skies above Earth began to tremble as a colossal vessel emerged from the planet's atmosphere, its sleek, angular silhouette easily dwarfing even the mightiest of the Galactic Council's warships. This was no ordinary spacecraft. It was a Dreadnought, a behemoth of technological and military might that had been kept hidden from the prying eyes of the alien alliance. As the human Dreadnought glided effortlessly through the void, its massive plasma cannons and energy shielding systems powering up, the Galactic Council's fleet finally arrived at the edge of the solar system. The alien vessels, their commanders bolstered by their overwhelming numerical and technological advantage, approached Earth with a sense of arrogant confidence. But their bravado quickly turned to shock and horror as the colossal human Dreadnought came into view, its towering presence casting an ominous shadow over the Galactic Council's forces. "What is the meaning of this?" the reptilian counselor snarled, his clawed hands clenching into fists. "How dare these humans possess such a weapon?" The other delegates murmured in disbelief, their expressions a mix of fear and begrudging awe. They had clearly underestimated the resolve and capabilities of the human civilization, and now they found themselves facing the prospect of a devastating reckoning. Without hesitation, the human Dreadnought opened fire, its devastating plasma cannons unleashing a barrage of destructive energy that tore through the Galactic Council's warships with ease. The alien vessels, their shields and armor unable to withstand the sheer power of the human weapon systems, were reduced to smoldering hulks adrift in the void. The Galactic Council's commanders, their previous arrogance quickly giving way to panic, frantically ordered their remaining ships to retreat. But the human Dreadnought, its advanced propulsion systems allowing it to outmaneuver the alien vessels with ease, pursued them relentlessly, raining down devastation upon their ranks. In the span of mere minutes, the once formidable Galactic Council fleet had been all but decimated, its shattered remnants fleeing in disarray back towards the safety of their orbital station. Aboard the human Dreadnought, the crew, a mix of seasoned veterans and ambitious young officers, watched the spectacle with a mixture of elation and grim determination. They knew that this was only the beginning of a much larger conflict, and that the Galactic Council would undoubtedly return with even greater force. But for now, they savored their triumph, secure in the knowledge that their homeworld had been defended against the alien juggernaut's might. Back on Earth, the news of the Dreadnought's decisive victory spread like wildfire, sparking a wave of euphoric celebration across the globe. The people, who had once been dismissed and belittled by the Galactic Council, now stood in awe of their own technological and military prowess. In the aftermath of the battle, the leaders of the United Earth Federation convened emergency sessions, their minds racing as they contemplated the implications of this stunning turn of events. "The Galactic Council will not take this defeat lightly," the President warned, her expression grave. "They will return, and they will bring the full force of their civilization to bear upon us. We must prepare for the worst." The other delegates nodded in agreement, their faces etched with a mix of pride and trepidation. "We have proven that we can stand against the alien juggernaut," one of the delegates declared, his voice brimming with resolve. "But we cannot afford to rest on our laurels. We must continue to push the boundaries of our technological capabilities, to develop even more advanced weapons and defenses that will give us the edge in the battles to come." The others murmured in agreement, their expressions determined. They knew that the Galactic Council's wrath would be swift and unforgiving, and that the very survival of their species hung in the balance. But as they looked out upon the shining blue orb of their homeworld, the humans felt a renewed sense of purpose and pride. They had been underestimated and dismissed, but they had proven that they were more than just a primitive species. They were a force to be reckoned with, a civilization that would not go down without a fight. And with the might of their colossal Dreadnought at their backs, the people of Earth steeled themselves for the coming storm, ready to defend their sovereignty and shape the future of the galaxy on their own terms. He shattered remnants of the Galactic Council's once formidable fleet limped back towards their orbital station, their commanders reeling in a mixture of shock, outrage, and grudging respect for their human adversaries. The devastating display of firepower and technological prowess from the colossal human Dreadnought had shattered the aliens' confidence, leaving them shaken to the core. As the battered vessels docked within the cavernous hangar bays of the station, the reptilian counselor and his fellow delegates convened an emergency session, their expressions grim and their voices tinged with a rare hint of uncertainty. "This is an unacceptable outcome," the reptilian counselor growled, slamming his fist against the polished surface of the council's meeting table. How could a mere human vessel possess such overwhelming power? Their technology should not be capable of such devastation. The other delegates murmured in agreement, their faces etched with a mix of fear and disbelief. They had long seen themselves as the undisputed masters of the galaxy, their civilization's technological and military superiority, ensuring their dominance over any upstart species that dared to challenge them. But the events of the past day had shattered that illusion, leaving them to confront a stark and unsettling reality. "We clearly underestimated the humans," said one of the delegates, a towering insectoid creature whose mandibles clicked nervously. "Their ability to develop such advanced weaponry and propulsion systems in such a short span of time is disturbing. It calls into question the very foundations of our power and authority." The reptilian counselor's eyes narrowed to slits, his scaled features contorting with a mixture of anger and concern. "Then we have no choice but to bring the full might of the Galactic Council to bear upon their pathetic planet. We must crush this threat to our supremacy, once and for all." The other delegates nodded in agreement, their expressions hardening with resolve. But as they began to discuss their plans for a retaliatory strike, a nagging doubt began to creep into their minds. What if the humans possessed even more devastating secrets, hidden away behind the veil of their seemingly insignificant civilization? What if the colossal dreadnought they had witnessed was merely a prelude to an even greater display of technological and military prowess? The counselors knew that they could not afford to underestimate their adversaries again. The stakes were simply too high. The very foundation of the Galactic Council's power and authority was at risk. After hours of heated debate and tense deliberation, the delegates reached a consensus. They could not risk an all-out confrontation with the humans. The potential for catastrophic losses, both in terms of military assets and the delicate balance of power in the galaxy, was too great a gamble. With a heavy heart, the reptilian counselor summoned the human ambassador back to the station, his demeanor noticeably subdued. As DuPont and her entourage once again stepped onto the landing pad, they were greeted not by the usual contingent of heavily armed soldiers, but by the counselors themselves, their expressions a mix of begrudging respect and concession. "Human ambassador," the reptilian counselor began, his voice uncharacteristically measured, "the Galactic Council has reached a decision regarding your species and your homeworld." DuPont felt a pang of trepidation, but she held her ground, her gaze unwavering. "And what decision have you reached, honored counselors?" The reptilian counselor took a deep breath, his scaled features betraying a hint of resignation. "After careful consideration, the Galactic Council has decided to recognize Earth as a sovereign member of our alliance." DuPont's eyes widened in surprise, and she struggled to find the words to respond. The other delegates, who had once looked upon the humans with such disdain and contempt, now regarded them with a measure of respect, and perhaps even a touch of unease. You are granting us full sovereignty?" DuPont asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "And the right to participate in the Council's decision-making processes." The reptilian counselor nodded, his expression grave. "Yes, human. We have come to the conclusion that attempting to subjugate your species would be unwise. Your technological and military capabilities have proven to be more formidable than we had anticipated, and we cannot afford the risk of a prolonged conflict that could destabilize the delicate balance of power in the galaxy. He paused, his gaze sweeping over DuPont and her colleagues. Make no mistake, we do not make this concession lightly. But we recognize that the alternative, an all-out war with your species, would be a far greater threat to the stability and prosperity of the Galactic Council's domain. DuPont felt a surge of pride and relief wash over her. The humans had stood firm against the Galactic Council's demands, and their defiance had been rewarded with a hard-won victory. Earth would now take its rightful place among the interstellar powers, its sovereignty and autonomy recognized and respected by the once mighty alien alliance. As DuPont and her team returned to their ship, the mood was one of cautious optimism and determination. They knew that the path ahead would not be an easy one. The Galactic Council would no doubt watch their every move with a wary eye, and there would undoubtedly be challenges and obstacles to overcome. But the people of Earth had proven that they were more than capable of rising to the occasion. They had stared down the might of the alien juggernaut and emerged victorious, their technological prowess and unwavering resolve shaking the foundations of the Galactic Council's dominance. And as the human vessel streaked back towards their homeworld, DuPont couldn't help but feel a sense of pride and purpose swelling in her chest. The people of Earth had taken their first steps towards a new era, one where they would shape their own destiny, forging alliances and challenging the established order of the galaxy. The journey ahead would be a daunting one, fraught with uncertainty and peril. But the humans were ready, their spirits bolstered by the knowledge that they had faced down the Galactic Council's might and emerged triumphant. They were no longer mere primitives. They were a force to be reckoned with, a civilization that would leave an indelible mark on the galaxy. And as the human Dreadnought, a testament to their ingenuity and determination, continued to patrol the skies above Earth, the people knew that their future was theirs to forge, no longer beholden to the whims of the Galactic Council. The era of human supremacy had begun.